Hey there, it's Jacques from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to day 4 of official Commander 2015 spoilers. So I believe this is going to be the last day of spoilers. I think tomorrow what we'll see is the deck list spoiled, considering it's a week away from the product release. So what we'll do is, much like a normal set, we will look at each deck one at a time and show you guys the deck list and talk about the deck a little bit, and hopefully allow you to make an informed decision about which ones you would like to purchase and play with. Other than that, though, we still have a few spoilers to look at, so let's get started. First, let's take a look at the tokens that were revealed today. We have white first. This is Angel, Cat, and we get a couple Knight tokens, one with First Strike, one with Vigilance. Blue only has one. It's a Drake. Black has two, a Germ and a Zombie token. Red gets 3, a Dragon, an Elemental, a Shaman, and a Lightning Rager. Green gets 8. Of course, a lot of this probably has to do with the Simic deck. It has a Bear, a Beast, an Elephant, a Frog Lizard, a Saproling, a Snake, a Spider, and a Wolf. Then we have some multicolor. We have the Elemental, a Snake, a Spirit token of Flying, and then the Daxus Spirit token. And finally, a couple colorless cards. We have a Shapeshifter token and a Gold Artifact token. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's get into the new cards for the day. The first one isn't brand new, it's a reprint, but it's Angel of Serenity, 3 white, 4 colorless. It's an Angel 5/6 flyer, and when Angel of Serenity enters the battlefield, you may exile up to 3 other target creatures from the battlefield and or creature cards from graveyards. When it leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hand. My assumption is this will be in the Boros deck. It's another just real big creature. It seems to be the theme for Boros, is getting out real big creatures, but I'm glad to see this got a reprint. It was originally in Return to Ravnica, and it does see a lot of Commander play, and it sees a lot of cube play too. It's a good card to just get more copies out there and hopefully bring the price down a little bit. Next we have one of the Confluences. This is Righteous Confluence, the white one, 2 white, 3 colorless. It's a sorcery. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once, and they are put a 2/2 white Knight token with a Vigilance on the battlefield, or exile target enchantment, or you gain 5 life. I love these Confluences. Let me just say that. I know I've been saying that, but they remind me a lot of the commands. You have the different modes, but it's cool that you can triple up or double up on a mode. I mean, this one you can gain 15 life. You can get rid of a pesky enchantment. You can put 3 2/2 white Knights with Vigilance on the battlefield. This is pretty powerful stuff. Now, I have noticed they've costed these things a little high for, say, Legacy or Vintage play, and I think they did that on purpose, because I think these things, if they were a little cheaper, could definitely have seen some play in those formats. As it stands now, I think they're more of a Commander, maybe cube cards, but they're still pretty awesome, and I love this design all in all. Next, we're going to look at the blue one, Mystic Confluence, 2 blue, 3 colorless. This one's an instant. You get to choose 3, and of course, you can use the same mode more than once. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. Return target creature to its owner's hand, or draw a card. Another one, just super powerful. You can Ancestral off this and get 3 cards. You can basically counter almost anything, make your opponent have to pay 9 mana to get it out on the battlefield, or you can bounce 3 things and go in for an aggressive attack, or any combination of all of that. Really awesome design. I love these Confluences. I hope we see something like this maybe someday in a standard set, even if it's not as pushed as these are. I think these are pretty awesome. Next we have Synthetic Destiny, 2 blue, 4 colorless. It's an instant. Exile all creatures you control. At the beginning of your next end step, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal that many creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way onto the battlefield and shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library. So, feels like a kind of polymorph that hits all your creatures. Now you'll want to use this obviously at the end of the previous turn, so you'll get these creatures that want to have Summoning Sickness, and this is a great way to get rid of a bunch of maybe small creatures or tokens and hopefully power out some big things. Now there's a little variance to it. You could miss perhaps with this card, but the more creatures you have on the battlefield, the less chance you have that you're going to miss. My assumption is this will be in the Simic deck, because that is playing with a lot of tokens, and hopefully that will help you power out something more powerful. The spell itself feels a little Izzet to me, with being an instant, being so expensive, but with the creature piece, I feel like this is definitely in the Simic deck. Next card is also a reprint. This was originally spoiled from a Japanese language spoiler, and it's Black Market. This was only printed in Marcadian Masks. Has never seen a reprint, and it's a very interesting card. 2 black, 3 colorless. It's an enchantment, and whenever a creature is put into the graveyard from play, put a charge counter on Black Market. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black mana to your mana pool for each charge counter on Black Market. So I'm looking at this, and first off, you're going to say, well, yeah, it makes sense in the Golgari deck, obviously, because, yeah, you're going to be interacting a lot with the graveyard. Could this possibly also be in the Spirit deck? Maybe. It is an enchantment, and there are some enchantment matters pieces to the Spirit deck, so perhaps, but definitely if it's only in one, probably the Golgari deck. And now, when this was originally printed, getting oodles of mana could be a drawback because you used to have mana burn. You don't have that problem anymore, so this is pretty good. This is a strong card, and if a lot of things are going to the graveyard, you're going to be swimming in mana and be able to cast a lot of big stuff. It's pretty cool. Alright, next card was spoiled from a Chinese Simplified language spoiler, and this is translated roughly Corpse Auger. 1 black, 3 colorless. It's a zombie wizard, 4/2, and when Corpse Auger dies, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of creature cards in target player's graveyard. Now, this is probably in the Golgari deck, so probably your graveyard is usually what you're going to target, but I like the versatility that you could target different graveyards to either maybe save yourself some life and draw less cards, or perhaps go for a graveyard that just is more packed than yours. So this is pretty cool. Now, it does have to die for it to have the effect, so you either need a sacrifice effect or your opponent has to be willing to maybe chump block it or something like that. But all in all, if you can get this to trigger, pretty powerful. You're going to get a lot of cards, and really the loss of life when you have that many cards drawn isn't too big of a deal. Next, we have a German language spoiler, and this is translated as Sosas Torment. It costs a black and 3 colorless. It's an enchantment. It has Constellation. Whenever Sosas Torment or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, Sosas Torment becomes a 5/5 demon with flying and haste until end of turn, in addition to its other types. So when you play this, you automatically get to attack in with a 5/5 demon flying with haste. That's pretty cool for 4 mana. Very economical. Now, the downside of this card is after that point, you do have to have something to trigger it. So my assumption is this will be in the Spirit deck. You'll probably have a lot of ways to trigger it, though. Daxos himself can create spirit tokens that are also enchantments, so that's an easy way to do it. But there's, I'm sure, going to be other ways. Now, if your deck stalls out on you, though, and you just start drawing some land, this doesn't feel super great in the battlefield. So maybe not one of the most exciting cards, but decent utility card will probably be good in that particular deck. This is Bloodsport Thrinax. 2 green, 2 colorless. It's a 2/2 lizard with Devour 1. And if you forgot what Devour does, basically when it comes into play, you can sacrifice any number of creatures, and because this has Devour 1, you get that many +1/+1 counters. Now, it has a further ability. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on this card. That's pretty cool. So you're paying 4 for a 2/2. It's a little fragile if you think of it that way, but as long as you have even a handful of creatures to sacrifice to it, this becomes very economical. Even if you just have 3 tokens, say, on the board, now it comes in as a 5/5. It's a little harder to kill, and any other creature you can play after that point is coming in with additional 3 counters on it. Yeah, that's kind of awesome, and that goes for tokens as well, so that can get crazy. So I'm sure this is going to be in the Simic deck. Now, this is the type of card that your opponents are going to have to deal with it. If they don't deal with it, it's going to take over the game and get out of control really fast. So expect this to be a lightning rod, but it's still a very cool card. I like the design. Next is Pathbreaker Ibex. 2 green, 4 colorless. It's a 3/3 goat, and whenever it attacks, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So basically, in the right build, and I'm sure again this will be the Simic build, I think we're learning a lot more about the Simic deck today, which is cool. This is going to finish someone off, basically. No doubt about it. Now, a couple things though. It is a little fragile being a 3/3, and it does have to get back around to your turn for it to do anything. So it's very possible you're going to pay 6 for this and never get anything out of it. That's a little painful. However, if you do get to untap with this, and there's an opening where you can get in there, you could take out an opponent. Now, obviously you can't just tap out in a multiplayer game, so it's not as powerful as, say, a one-on-one situation. But this is an interesting card. Now, again, not one of my favorites because it's a little fragile and a little slow, but it's going to feel good when this does work. It can be very powerful. Let's move into some multicolor. We have Arjun, the Shifting Flame, for an Izzet and 4. This is a 5/5 legendary Sphinx Wizard with flying, and whenever you cast a spell, put the cards in your hand on the bottom of your library in any order, then draw that many cards. So basically, he has a Tefari's Puzzle Box ability built into him whenever you cast the spell. Really going to let you dig through your library pretty quick, and he's got good stats too. Paying 6 for a 5/5 flyer is pretty cool. And he's also legendary, so you can switch him out if you want and make him your commander. So there's that as well. So he does a lot and does basically what that Izzet deck wants to do. So the more we see about this Izzet deck, I mean, it's all about dig. It's all about card advantage. Kind of makes me wonder how it's going to stack up against some of the other commander decks. If you can see a lot of your deck, that's a huge advantage. So is this going to be a little more powerful than some of them? I don't know. Just looking at the cards, seems like there's potential for this thing to be a little more powerful than the other 4, but until we play with them and see the full deck list, it's kind of hard to say. Next we have Carlo of the Ghost Council, and it's a black and a white legendary Spirit Advisor 2/2, and whenever you gain life, you'll put 2 counters on him, and you can pay an black and a white and remove 6 +1/+1 counters from him to exile target creature. So Grizzly Bear, a lot of upside, pretty powerful stuff. He is a little slow, however. Now, as far as the Spirit deck goes, there's probably plenty of ways to gain life, and you can gain some life, pump this guy, and he can become pretty good pretty quick. And in a pinch, if you need to remove a creature, he can do that. So that's pretty cool. But he is a little slow. If you don't have ways to gain life, he's just a 2/2 sitting out there and potentially could be destroyed. Now, you're only paying 2 for him, so definitely worth the risk, obviously. But overall, I'll say what I like the most about this card is I love the flavor. I love that we're visiting one of the members of the Ghost Council. I think that's pretty cool. And there you have it. Alright, our last card of the day is Thought Vessel, and this is a 2 casting cost artifact, and it taps for 1 colorless mana, and you have no maximum hand size. So, pretty decent. It's the first kind of mana trick that we've seen so far. Surprised it took this long. But what deck wants this? I mean, this would be fine in any deck. It's a little bit of acceleration, but I think the Izzet deck really would want it more than any of them. But yeah, this could be in all 5 decks. It's cheap enough too, which makes it Legacy viable. However, I don't know if there's a need for it in Legacy. Combo decks can usually just kind of go off at instant speed in Legacy. I don't think you need to worry about your maximum hand size. The only other card that might splash over into Legacy is the Izzet card that lets you recast all your instants and sorceries out of your graveyard for the overload cost, but that would have to be in a very niche deck. Maybe the Storm deck could use that, I don't know. So that's an interesting one. Now, I will say though, even if that one does splash over into Legacy, it will be a very niche role, and that's a good thing. I don't like to see this product become, I need to get 4 of this one particular deck because of a card in it that I need to play in Legacy, and that's happened before in the past and led to some awkwardness. So I think they're doing a good job of making the powerful spells and abilities cost a little too much for Vintage and Legacy, and as far as anything that's really big haymakers go that could fall into a reanimation deck or something like that in Legacy, typically you don't necessarily need 4 copies of something like that. Usually 1 or 2 will do. So I think they're doing a good job so far from what we've seen of hopefully preventing that from happening again. So anyway, enough of that. Those are the spoilers for today. Hey, as always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a good day.
Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality videos for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a good day.